once the facility was evacuated, the gas seeped into all our produce and burned everything. So it was unedible, not fit to eat. It was sort of skin burned. Everything was sort of gone. And once the fresh produce was exposed to something like this gas, we had to throw what was left. So in effect, we woke up to a business that was gone, like gone within hours.
Our guests today know how to keep it in the family. Jamal Hussain and Halima Jumani are the power couple at the helm of Kibsons International LLC, the company supplying Dubai and the region with quality produce and products for the past 4 decades. Kibsons was founded back in 1982 in Dubai as a small 17-employee operation by Hussain Ismail Khatri, Jamal's father, but has now grown to number over 1,500 employees. Kibsons distributes a staggering 500,000 kilos of produce every day, servicing everyone from markets to restaurants to Emirates and Etihad in flight catering. Jamal took over the reins in 1997, with Halima joining him in the family business in 2007. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Homegrown DXB, the show taking you inside the lives, the people changing yours right here in Dubai. I'm your host, Omar Butti, and I'm very privileged to have with us today the founders of Kibsons. Thank you so much for being with us, Jamal, and of course, Halima. Pleasure to have you on Homegrown and find out all about the family behind the Kibsons name and brand. Jamal, just turning to you first, I want to take us back to the beginning, if you will. 1982, the founding of the company by your father, and what that period was like for you, what you recall from those early days.
The early days were Dubai was very small. The fruit market was based in Hamria, which is now the waterfront market right across Dubai Hospital. I do remember visiting. My father had a different business, and there was a manager running the show. He would go once a week, take me with him, sometimes twice a week. It was just like any other market, absolutely hustling, bustling, traders, hawkers everywhere. And I do remember entering the cold stores, the small cold stores in the shops, checking out different fruits, which I had never seen before, trying out mangoes from Australia. Usually we used to have mangoes from India or Pakistan at that time. So these were new mangoes that came out of Australia, some of the new fruits that used to come from Thailand. So it was just really a big eye opener. I must have been 5, 6 years old when I lie, 9 or 10 for the first time when it opened up. So it was very, very attractive.
And I mean, is that something at the time when you went with your father that you were like, this is going to be the family business and that's something that you imagined taking over? Or was it just you're going with your father to work?
Never in my wildest thought that I thought I would get into the fruits and vegetables. It was a very happy accident, I'll say. I always thought I would take over my father's general trading business, which he was very much involved with, hands-on. This was run by a manager, and it was just like a side business, a side hustle for him. And so you used to go check on the accounts, check on everything, and make sure that everything is running smoothly, and that's about it. This shop was given to him by accident by the municipality, who wanted to fill up the store.
By accident, what do you mean?
Means Dubai was very close. They wanted people to come and open. The fruit market was much smaller. It was where the Dera stand was, near the gold market. That was the fish market, fruit market, vegetable market, all the market basically. So he shifted to Hamria, which was about far away. And I remember my dad telling me, who's going to go to Hamria at that time? It's so far away from the city. The municipality wanted to fill up the stores, so they knocked on each and every trader to open up a fruit store. And my father, I do remember telling the guy, what do I know about fruits? So one guy said, I know, I used to sell fruits and vegetables back in my hometown. He says, would you like to run it? He says, yeah. Okay. So this is by accident. It happened. Okay. There was no plan.
And was there a moment when your sort of mindset about the business changed, or when your father perhaps, or you perhaps realized that this wasn't going to be
a side hustle? It was going to be something that was a business that you would pursue, that you would grow?
It was always a side hustle. When I came back from after graduating, um, I was offered a job, offer letter from a bank, which I didn't sign. So I discussed it with my parents as I should. At that time, ironically, the manager resigned, wanted to retire and go back to India. And my father said, "Hey, there's no one running the show. Would you like to?" I like, but I really want to get into the banking sector because that was something that I really, really wanted to do during graduating in what I did. And it was just an ideal choice. Unfortunately, the fate didn't have it this way. And I said, okay, let's. So I had a 1 month crash course and of different foods, how to order, when to order, who to quote for, which retailers on Thursday, which retailers on Friday, which retailers on Saturday. So it was just so overwhelming. And fruit and vegetable sector is so wide and so vast that to gain the knowledge in 1 month is impossible. Anyway, just a focus, and I started loving it. As soon as I learned about it, I was towards the end, I felt I was ready, but I wasn't. But
Is anyone ever ready for anything?
no.
Oh, speaking of ready, and actually of the banking sector, Halim, I want to bring you into the conversation. You were in the finance sector previously, before you were pulled into, or perhaps joyfully joined the family business. Again, when for you, what was your moment when you're like, this makes sense. This is the job that I'm interested in pursuing as well.
So I married Jamal in 99. At the time, I was working in KPMG, and finance was my thing. It was my passion. And I really loved what I did. So it became the right thing to do to offer that expertise into the family business and say, yeah, sure, I look after 20 to 30 clients per every year in the KPMG segment. So, of course, I can prepare the schedules for a small business. We were about 30 employees on the payroll back then,
Okay.
50. So it was setting up the
And this was
structures,
in
very
99, you
basic,
said?
99, yeah. So I went straight into the business and looked at the structures. And, there were two accountants. They hardly knew anything. They couldn't really afford KPMG. And I was passionate about getting things in order. So I did. And one thing led to another. I was always sort of involved in the family business on the side. God knows how I had the energy to do two jobs, but that stopped when we had two jobs and three kids. It's at that point that I was called into Kibsons full time. Jamal said, "Look, why don't you just focus on one thing?"
So I'm just curious because the way you characterize it there, it was like, oh, you were doing so much, right? You had three children, you had the two jobs. Come to Kibsons, that will be more streamlined. Was it less work for you when you joined?
Now it was more focus on one thing that we both wanted to grow. So in terms of our expertise, Jamal has always focused on the commercial aspect. He's the buyer and the seller. I never was, never can do, I think.
And why do you think that's
Yeah,
something
because
that he is particularly equipped for?
yes, he is a person of relationships, and I am a very military operations director. So our strengths are different and beautifully complement each other, I feel. I ran all the support functions at Gibson's, the back end, the back office. So I did the finance, I did the ops, um, I did HR, and it was regimented. At home I was the regimented mom, not really worried about pleasing people or managing relationships. It was everything was based on merit. I mean, if you're performing, you're welcome. If you're not performing, here is your termination. It's a process for me. For Jamal, firing someone is a episode. He can never really, for example, because relationships mean not that they mean less to me, but I'm very practical, fast paced, and I move on. But Jamal enjoys and thrives in the relationships. He's designed for that. Um, I think that beautiful thing we've built across the world. Like I was telling you earlier, in Dubai, people know us for the Kibsons brand today because we deliver door to door. But prior to that, these were like celebrities. Jamal and his partner in crime, Daniel. they traveled around the world for 16, 17 years. And in the world of agriculture on the planet, they are very well respected because of the relationships that are not easy to build and create. And I must also add that that is actually the USP of Kibsons, because it's very difficult for anyone to go back in time and clock that in. So that expertise, that importing, the years of imports and distributions that they have achieved, that's our real USP. On the back of that, we are able to deliver the wholesale, fresh quality and pricing to the doors.
So how does one become a celebrity in the agricultural world? Like,
See, it
how,
was
how
a
do
lot
you
of
build those relationships?
it was a lot of hard work, and it's a very good question. I do remember coming in, we had one supplier from Holland, one supplier from America, one supplier from, and I said, we need to change this. And I could see there is growth. First of all, I got some money injected by my dad. It was easy that way. Built, understood the business, understood where the growth lies. With the growth, I realized that I need to have more suppliers to make sure that the prices are competitive so I can give a better deal to the retailers, because we supplied all the retailers at that time in UAE. They were not that big, so they couldn't import themselves. Um, I used to go visit fairs, and then at the same time, I used to ask guys in South Africa, Holland, to send their yellow pages. There was no Google, nothing. Go, okay, this company is good. Or go in the market to see the boxes, get a cut, and contact them by fax at that time. I do remember writing a fax. Okay, can I come? Can I have a meeting with you? I go to the offices, meet them, wait an hour, sometimes 2 hours as well. But I was very, how do I say it? Very focused and driven at that time. I remember going to South Africa, hiring a car, going around to the farms, just asking, would you like to supply me? And we were very small at that time. So, some were like really appreciative and started, yeah, we can supply you, but it's only one container. Little do they know that fast forward 15, I buy 50 to 100 containers a week with them on the citrus, for example. So this is how the relationship I was building, but it was just slower and steady progress that left me. Halima was a very supportive wife, um, and a good friend as well. She understood. I said I need to cover the bases first before we even do the expansion. And I was doing that simultaneously. The hotels were opening up, so I would go to the visit the hotels to get contract. There was no salesman. I did everything,
So it must have been
everything,
a lot to take
purchasing.
on yourself.
Hey.
And that must have been, this is what, the early 2000s?
Early 2000, late 90s, early 2000. It was 16, 17 hours shift was normal for me. I would wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning because Australia time, then sleep late because of the American time to have a discussion because it's air freight, right? So you don't want to miss your shipment or and it not to arrive on time. And there was a lot of to and fro faxes and phone calls. That's what we did.
I mean, how do you sustain that sort of, obviously over now the 40 plus years business? I imagine it's a little less crazy now. Maybe I'm wrong. Please tell me if I am. But how do you sustain that level of drive, that just amount of effort, that lack of sleep, over the long haul, for something that you obviously want to build and expand and grow?
I fell in fruits and vegetables after a year into it. I said, I love this. This was my passion. I wasn't doing it because it was a job or it was just to make money. It was the driving force was my passion. I really enjoyed traveling. I love traveling and I love meeting people. It was just second to nature for me. And I got along with a lot of growers. I know their family. I know the kids. And they when they were young, and now they're just like adults. Some of them may play for the Springboks rugby as well. So you see, I've seen them grow, and there's the relationship that counts in our business.
Hattie, I want to ask you a little about the expansion as well, because I mean, Kibsons does many, many things now. It's not just the fruits and vegetables, obviously. We talked a bit about the e-commerce piece, and I want to get more into that in a little bit. But you also do flowers, kids, sort of items, mother, baby items. When you first start looking at expanding to all these other verticals, how do you sort of decide where to expand? Do you ever worry about diluting the core business? Because obviously, you were and are still a fruit and vegetable sort of, company, if, at least at its initial core. How do you make those decisions?
It's a very good question. And we are very clear about the fact that our core is fresh produce. We call ourselves fresh produce people. So when it comes to fruits, vegetables, meat, poultry, this is, we have our own factory for the meat processing. So we are very particular about understanding the fresh produce segment and delivering correctly as per the required cold chain that it needs. Now, expanding into dairy, bakery was driven by the customer feedback. So we were told by them that, guys, you're doing all the fruits, vegetables. Could you please do dairy, bakery, eggs? And, then we won't need to do our weekly runs to the groceries. We can just. So I think listening to the customer is also very important. And we've expanded and responded to that need. We've done very well, but we always remind ourselves that the fresh category, and even today, 50% of our sales comes from fresh. So that's never going to change. These are the add-ons in our mind.
And then one of the categories is there's which I noticed just because they had this nice little logo of the, sort of the falcon and proudly local. How did that specifically come about?
We are homegrown Dubai people, and we experienced firsthand what it was like to launch a product and be at the supermarket and deal with the store opening fees and the listing fees. And, we struggled enough. So Jamal and I made a decision that when it will be our online platform, we will have none of those fees. And we will give all these homegrown businesses a fair chance that they deserve. And we're very proud of that. We take that very seriously. I think it's also important to add that the agricultural scene in Dubai has changed so much from having little or no agriculture. Now we have such a beautiful growth, and we couldn't be more proud to be at the forefront of supporting that and guiding that. What are the things that work? What are the things that don't work? And it's practical because importing produce and having it local, I mean, from a cost perspective, it's practical, isn't it?
I'd like to add a lot of SMEs did struggle getting into retailers because, as Halima pointed out there, about all the fees. And when we started, it was a lot of SMEs really came to us, and if the product was good, we gave them a launching pad. When COVID hit, a lot of SMEs were getting out of business, and they did approach us because most were catering to HoReCa. I remember the frozen fish guy, shrimp guys, they came in. I said, okay, make sure that you have just a 500-gram pack. So it was just a big bag and 500 grams. So basically half of it was empty, but we gave them a chance. There were some cheese guys that were struggling, that were on HoReCa side. We helped them. We saved, and we are very proud of that as well, that we could help them at the same time help our consumers get a better product as well.
So you mentioned COVID there, and I actually wanted to discuss that because that was obviously a huge moment for everyone in the world, but I imagine a very challenging moment for you guys as well. And sort of tie that into a large discussion about the e-commerce piece. What was that period of COVID like for you? How did that impact the business? Was it something where like e-commerce was really something that stepped in at that time? What was that period like?
COVID was an unprecedented period for the planet. Nobody saw it coming, or nobody was prepared for it. And in Dubai, we were very lucky to have such an incredibly supportive government that did everything it could, to keep us safe. And I think one of the fundamental principles of Kibsons is our values. And our staff mirror our values. So when we hire people, we hire them, like we said earlier, from the attitude. Not only that, but I work very closely with all the blue-collar workers in our business, and I'm very proud of that. I think that giving them the respect over the years, this has been over the years, was something important to us. So when COVID hit and the world needed us, what we experienced was immediately the orders growing. So we had about 2,000 deliveries a day. Then we went to about a quota of 7,000 per day, which was on a schedule of 7-day orders. So if you wanted a slot, you would have that 7 days in advance. That was significant. I had 4 people in my customer care department at the time. And I remember going down to my blue-collar workers and talking to them and saying, look, guys, each one of us here today is not by accident. We have been carefully selected by the universe to be here for a purpose. And if any one of you, from wherever you come from, wanted to be, sometimes people have these aspirations. I wanted to be a doctor or a lawyer or engineer, but I didn't have the money and I couldn't really make it. I said, if you ever had that, today is your shining day, because we are second in line to healthcare. So groceries is such an important category. These people need us. The families need us. We had stories of a mother alone in a home with 4 kids, but the husband was stuck in Saudi Arabia, for example, or there were senior citizens who couldn't move. And I explained those stories and I said, our society needs us today. And this is today. This is not about a business. This is not about money. This is not about work. This is about humanity, right? Or a chance to do something truly exceptional. But those words came from the values, and my staff, I'm very proud to say, delivered it. For 4 months, nobody in Kibsons took a day off. We work around the clock from something more deeper than just a commercial financial transaction. And in about 6 weeks, we hired 400 people. We grew 3-folds in that period of time. It was an incredibly emotional, but also an incredibly difficult situation to handle. But we did, right? I remember in those days, I was grateful for 2 things: sleep and shower.
Well, I think we were all very appreciative for all those small luxuries, small kindnesses that we were able to enjoy during COVID, during that period. But I imagine it wasn't as simple as just trying to follow like a hard principle. Like there were probably some sacrifices you guys made as well.
Like sacrifices in terms of see each other much. Like she was busy in her operations and demand planning. I was busy in trying to procure products.
Were
Other
the
challenge,
costs the same? Did you have issues with supply chains during
yeah,
COVID?
like it was disrupted. Airlines were there were not many airlines that were flying. Obviously, the costings went up on shipping as well as by air freight, and we didn't really want to increase the price. However, we could have increased the price by 20-25% even, and people would have still bought from us. But we maintained the price. We took the knock ourselves, and because I know we were blessed, but there were 90% that were unlucky people who lost their jobs. We made sure that we funded a lot of pilots that were on retainers. We went on retainer. Many pilots were fired, but they were staying in Dubai because they couldn't fly. There were a lot of other. So we made there were funds open for them. We would donate fruits and vegetables. We would not increase our prices. We counted a blessing. Our business went up, yes, but we were not very happy about it as well because the 90% of the population was suffering.
So maybe to take us out of the doom and gloom a little bit, just take a step back to the launch of the Kibsons e-commerce, which I think was really instrumental in this time, right? People were able to really avail themselves of having these deliveries to their homes. But where did that pivot come from? When did you guys realize that, you know what, we don't want to just be someone who supplies to restaurants or to wholesalers, that we actually think there's room here for it to be for the individuals?
Again, it was a pure accident. In the
There's a lot of accidents.
Yes.
There's
Happy accidents.
this family of accidents, by the way.
So there was no plan to be an entrepreneur. We just, I think, followed the course, and here we are. We were, I think, if I remember correctly, what we were trying to do is just survive, right? So we're looking at the financials and making sure that things are in order like you should as an entrepreneur. And of the different business segments that we ran, so the wholesale and the retail and distribution, the distribution was particularly difficult and consistently making a loss. And I was trying to understand why, what's wrong. I tried to focus on inventory for 2 years, trying to fix things within the company to see what can we do different, or at least break even. And then one day, I realized that actually it's the contracts that we have at the supermarkets. They have this, they are fundamentally flawed. I don't want to go into detail, but the promotions that we offer outweigh the regular supplies that we do. And when I figured that math, I tried to renegotiate those contracts with retailers and say, look, guys, this is really not working out. But I suppose the problem with any business is that when there is a large volume going on in terms of the turnover, it's difficult to put a stop. It's difficult to say, okay, that's enough, and we don't want to do this business again, because people get stuck in the cycle of, okay, we don't know anything better. But I remember having those conversations with Jamal and saying, look, bad business cannot be better than no business. So this does not make sense to make money in one division and then lose it in another. And while I was trying to do that fight, the general manager of the department, who was 14 years with us, sort of resigned on us and said, look, if you think, I mean, he probably felt that I was against this entire department in the way it is run, and that's him doing a bad job. So, and nothing to do with the contracts. And I think he resigned. And that became the pivoting factor, because all of a sudden there was no one to run that business, because he said, well, if you think that you can do this any better, then why don't you show us how?
And then you decided you would.
No, I mean, I panicked, I remember, but I didn't show the panic. One of the things you do, you never show your discomfort to your staff. You have to behave like a leader and say, yes, confidence, we got this. You know, what's the worst that can happen?
Why do you believe that? Why do you think you never show panic or uncertainty?
No, you should be authentic and show your weaknesses selectively. We are humans, and that's fine, you know, to make mistakes and apologize. But when a business is going through a very difficult turn like this or the COVID, right? People look to you, look to the leaders for some sort of confidence and faith. And the truth is, we have that. I mean, deep down, I knew that this was the right thing to do. So you follow that to overcome the obstacles in your way. You've got to overcome obstacles with a lot of faith and grit. And on the other side, you know, Jamal and I have 3 kids who are into sports, and nutrition is a big part of our home. We have friends who valued good health and, you know, the affordable fruits at our shop. They would come and say, my God, you know, we can buy all this at your shop. I say, yeah. So we thought, hey, how about you put the two together? So we started with an Excel spreadsheet, which was just for our family and friends. And they loved it, because in those days, I remember a punnet of blueberries in retail shops was selling for about 23, 24 dirhams a punnet. And we were selling at 9 dirhams a punnet.
And why were
Still
you so
making
much
money.
cheaper?
Because we were wholesalers and we were watching retailers.
We were importing it. We would sell it to the retailers, and then retailers would put a 50, 60, or 70% markup on top of that.
I feel betrayed. I've bought so many blueberries over the years for
That's
20
all right.
dirhams plus.
Or you can feel rescued by Kibsons. And so really that was it. I remember when we had about 300 orders a day, I took my staff, which was about 10 pickers or 12 drivers at the time. And we went to Murder City Center to celebrate, because I was so
This is at 300 orders.
300 orders per day, and I was buzzing. So we played arcades, games in Murder City Center. We had a really nice time, and then we gave away prizes. Jamal loves to give away prizes, and after that, everybody said, "Hey, when's the next party?" And I was like, 500, 500, and then he said 1,000. And on the way back home, I was so upset with him. I said to him, "Look, if you didn't want to give a party, you could just have said no."
Why did you say 1,000? Just felt like a good number.
Because no. On the commercial side, I could see the word of mouth growing on the fruits. You were basically getting the top quality product at a wholesaler's price. Okay, the bit of extra delivery charges and so on and so forth I had to add on to the cost, but still cheaper than any retailer that you could do. And it was based on quality, based on taste, and based on flavors. And I knew people will get hooked to it. For example, when I was supplying retailers, I had to go for the cheapest blueberry, even though deep down I know I would not take this home because it was not the best tasting one. However, if I would have paid $1 more over 12 punnets, so you can do the math, less than 10 cents a punnet more US cents, I could give a better eating experience to the consumers. I couldn't do that because I would miss out on the order. But with the e-commerce, it gave me the freedom to import those good blueberries or good, better quality fruits, and introduce new varieties of fruit, which I would never be able to dream of giving it to retailers, because they will say orange is an orange. No, there is oranges. There are multiple varieties of oranges, multiple varieties of apples, and I know which one to pick. This is in my genes, and this is in my blood right now. 27 years on purchasing side of fruits and vegetables. I don't think there is many retailers in Dubai who can even say they have done 10 years in purchasing fruits and vegetables. No one, guaranteed. So I knew about the fruits. So I could see the trend once they get hooked, and they will say, the blueberries or any fruit from Kibsons, it's tasting better than any other top retailers. So I knew it would come, and I I was pretty much quite a gambling man, a calculated gambling man, and I knew it would happen within a few months. But Halima didn't believe it.
And did it happen within a few months?
Oh, exactly. I think 18 months later, we were on 2,000 deliveries a day. And then I had to call it a holiday at Kibsons on the Valentine's Day. And we took the entire team to the Bollywood Park back then and had a ball.
Rest in peace, Bollywood Park.
Yes, I know. Sadly, you know
Yeah.
what? We have some great memories there.
What are you guys at today?
We do about 150,000 a month.
Okay, so a small bit of growth there.
Yeah, just a little time.
Just a little bit. Well, I don't want to ruin this sort of, I don't know, celebratory atmosphere, but I did want to also talk about, I think, a fairly significant incident that happened as part of Kibson's history, with a forklift accident in one of your warehouses, your main warehouse, where, as I understand, you lost all the produce that was there, everything. Because these types of things can happen in any business, right? You think everything's going well, and then you are hit with something you don't expect. Tell me about that day and sort of how you dealt with it.
You should start on that one.
So the accident happened about 6 a.m. And we woke up to that. I made a few calls in the office and I thought, okay, it's it's an accident, you recover, maybe it'll slow things down. So we made a plan to send out some emails to customers saying that we will be late, that the orders might be late, which we do as a customary practice.
What
anyways.
specifically happened I know there's a forklift involved and a cooling system looking at this.
Well, so we have the cooling pipes running through, and there was this particular boy who was usually driving the smaller forklift. So he would that was his usual forklift. So he would drive around very peacefully because 6 o'clock there's hardly anybody there. The shift is just beginning. On that day, he was driving a reach truck, which has a taller mast, and so he didn't quite realize, and he swerved around to sort of dodge the pedestrians in the corridor, and the mast hit those cooling pipes. So there was a crack and there was a gas leakage, and this gas has a burning effect. So initially, people, they had their eyes burning, so everybody started running, and then once the facility was evacuated, the gas seeped into all our produce and burned everything. So it was unedible, not fit to eat. It was sort of skin burned. Everything was sort of gone. And once the fresh produce was exposed to something like this gas, we had to throw what was left. So in effect, we woke up to a business that was gone, like gone within hours.
Was this your entire supply?
Entire stock was out. However, we were very lucky. We rented another cold store. Our fruits were coming into play. Containers were, because it's a cycle. We don't just.
How long were you out of action for?
Our store was closed for what, 7 days?
Exactly 7 days.
Within 7 days, day and night. No, any other business. I tell you what. I think my personal thinking is that because the operation is not my field, I've made sure that my supply was a bit delayed on the air freight side. The sea freight, we would store it somewhere else. But the operation team was on it for almost 20. Once I saw Halima when I was coming into the office, she was leaving the office at 8 o'clock in the morning. So it was a whole day and night. The guys were working to make sure the goods are accounted for, because we had to account for the insurance purposes. We had to count each and every, and for destruction and so on. So was all the protocols were made. And in order to get the store up and running, making sure it's clean and there's no ammonia left, no residues of the ammonia left. And I tried to manage the stocks from the outside. So yeah. So in 7 days, but any other business, I think it was easily, though it was a 137 built up 70,000 square foot. It's a lot of produce. About close to 7 million dirhams produce were thrown away. That's still
That's a lot.
that was very hurtful, by the way.
I can imagine. So how do you bounce back with something like that? When something like that happens, like how do you approach that as someone leading a business? Like, how do you pick yourself up? How do you say, okay, we're going to rebuild, put the pieces back together?
So many aspects. I mean, emotionally, to recover from that, and to be having that responsibility towards everyone, your employees, your customers. So we had to send the communication out to the customers. We communicated properly as much as we could, and we owed it to our employees. Our parents were there to support us during the time, and I remember my mom saying, and she looked at my staff in the office and she said, they all depend on you. You don't have a choice. You have to bounce back. And we did. As a business, fortunately, we kept reserves. We do have reserves. We have retained earnings over the years. So as a business, you have your buffers and your balances. But it is in that moment to stay strong, focused, believe, and know that you've got to do the right thing by the people who depend on you. Keeps us going.
And we had amazing customers. The
Oh,
day we
yes.
opened,
Yes, I should
the
not forget that.
just incredible. They were rallying behind us on WhatsApp. No, sorry, on Instagram, on Facebook, wanting to help. Come help. I'm like, just the offer was enough. Less little that they can help with the cleaning, and it's just incredible. The community was so strong. So the day we opened, it's like we never closed down. The orders were almost 1.5 times more. I think it was Thursday or Wednesday that we opened, and it was double almost, I think. And it just continued spiraling after that. And within a month, I think the revenues were we didn't lose out a little bit, but it didn't feel like we closed down for 7 days.
So one thing that we've discussed over our course of our conversation are the principles that sort of you use as your guide for Kibsons, and I wanted to sort of hone in on those specifically, and if there were any red lines, any things in particular that you say, parties, projects, people that perhaps you wouldn't do business with, or practices that you wouldn't engage in, things that you think are really important to sort of set firm boundaries when it comes to running a business.
In the fruit market, there is a lot of unethical practices. Boxes are changed with origin, which I will never do. Bribery, I will never do. Favors is absolute no. That's why I don't have much supply in the Horeca side of the sector, because obviously there is a lot of dealings which I'm not very comfortable with. It's an honest business. It's a family business. I really need to have a conscious mind.
And why is that important to you?
I say how I've been raised since childhood. I don't remember my dad being on a bit of shady kind of character. He was straightforward, honest, man's word. All shake hands, and that's a man's word. That's it. And then you have to follow it regardless. And this is how I've built my relationship around the world. It's been shake hands. I mean, there are instances where the market would collapse for the oranges. Okay, and I would lose about, let's say, 10 dirhams a box. And that's a fact. 1,600 boxes a container, multiplied by 30 containers on coming through. I would say there are guys would say, "Oh, I don't want it because it comes on credit." They will say they will not clear from the port. I would say, "No, I made a commitment. I will buy that, and I would take the knock." And this is how the relationship was built. And when the good times came, I would give them extra money as well. So it's just to and fro. So these are some of the practices that we really hold dear.
I kind of want to ask a little bit about Kibsons as the name of the show, Homegrown company, being here in Dubai. And if there's anything in particular that struck you as making Dubai maybe a unique or a special place to do business. Anything about Dubai that you thought maybe was different or particularly helped Kibsons as a company?
So many things. Dubai is a very special place. I think for my MBA, I took that up as a topic of strategic innovation, and that's what it is, right? It inspires people like us to do better, whether we are at an entrepreneurial level or whether we are here from the subcontinent trying to make a better life for a family. It's such an inspirational place. The vibes are different. It is safe. It is secure. It's got a community. It has this air of respect for one another, which is so important. People come together over here with a mindset to support one another. So I would also like to add that the laws are so easy and fair. It's just easy to navigate. The whole purpose is that, look, let's do something with ease and be rightful and be fair. So we try to mirror that in our business. And here we are. And I think this incident is such a classic example of reminding us what the community is all about. I did in those 7 days worry whether we will have the orders back. Do you think people will come back and shop? And they did. And that is testament to the UAE community. So it is a beautiful place.
On a personal note, I want to ask you what it's like working with your spouse so closely for so long. Is that something that is fun? Is it enjoyable?
It's a dream. We never fight. We are totally aligned at all times.
Like every
Jokes
marriage,
aside,
right?
jokes aside. Jokes aside, look, we have luckily we enjoy each other's company. We have lunches together. We discuss ideas. We discuss strategies. We bounce ideas with each other, even if it's like a short coffee break or 10 minutes here and there. And we do have a lot of disagreements as well, which sometimes spills over at home. But we know how to, as we have been married for 25 years, so we know how to handle it, and we smooth things out. Okay, sometimes we just we weigh each other's opinions, and then one agrees, one disagrees, but then we align each other. We always align on that, and then we go back and we are pretty much. I think we are pretty much aligned on most of the things. 99%, I'll say.
Halima, are you aligned with his answer?
Yeah, I think there are three things here that one, our strengths complement each other. So like I said earlier, Jamal and I have different strengths. They don't clash, they complement. Number two, we are very grateful that in such a busy world with so much going on, we can spend more time with each other. And the third thing is that because we are friends, we are honest with each other. And that's why we have grown so much together. Because, we are giving each other that authentic feedback, something that the other person doesn't want to hear, we say it. And we process it and we respond to it. So I think we have grown as individuals. Maybe we don't realize that. I hope you do.
No, we do. I mean, like, obviously, we do.
So it's beautiful. It has its challenges, but so does, I mean, even if it were not us married, we would have bosses, and there's always a challenge. I'm grateful I'm with Jamal, and I hope he is with me.
Me too.
And I hope we can today sit here and say we built something beautiful together, right? All about the homegrown audio today.
Absolutely, absolutely. And just finally, very quickly, what's next for Kibsons then? What do you guys aspire to in the next few years, the next 25 years of your wonderful marriage?
You go ahead.
We have so many dreams and so many things coming up. One step at a time, one project at a time. In the near future, we are excited about the Christmas trees because it's such a special season in Dubai, and people are looking forward to the Christmas trees in Kibsons and the Thanksgiving turkeys. And it's a time for celebrating what we have and being grateful. Makes me very, very happy that we're a part of this celebration in the country. And in the near future, I think we are trying to develop the business that we have built and take it to another level. The world is moving very fast with AI and technology, and we are at the forefront of it. So we look forward to keeping that step ahead all the time.
Well, Jamal, Halima, thank you so much for being with us on Homegrown
Thank
DXB.
you so
it's such
much
a pleasure
for
having
having
you
us.
both.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
What an
really.
honor and pleasure to be here. Thank you.